recipes have excitotoxins, either soy sauce or some of the other excitotoxins. A good way for you to find out if you don't understand what those are is to get a book by Dr. Blaylock, and it's called Excitotoxins. It's very informative. This recipe I'm going to show you today does not have those, and I'm sure I'm going to hear people say, well, why can't you use this or that? But this recipe is specifically a non-excitotoxin recipe, so that's why I do it the way I do it. And I want to show you, this goes really fast, so if you blink you might miss it. And what you want to do, the first step is to start soaking your mushrooms. I have 1 cup of shiitake mushrooms, and they are soaking in 2 cups of water. And I usually let them soak for about half an hour before I begin. And while those soak, I get everything else ready. I get all the seasoning put together, and I get my vegetables cut up, because once you turn on the fires and you get things heating up, it goes really fast. And I wanted to show you some of the vegetables that work really good in this. These are snow peas. I don't know if you've ever had these before. When you prepare them, you want to peel off the little, what do you call it? The tough, fibrous thing that runs along their little thread. And just break the tip off and then pull the thread loose. Break it and pull the thread. I usually work from both ends, because sometimes it'll stop about there, but you still have some of the thread on the other end of it. So you want to break off both ends, that way you don't have any tough thread, and that can be unpleasant when you're eating. Other vegetables that I like in this are bell peppers, carrots, broccoli. This is kohlrabi. I don't know if you've ever seen this. This is a nice winter vegetable, and it has nice crunch to it. It's very mild flavored, kind of like the stem off of broccoli. I don't know if you've tasted that, but it's very mild and very pleasant tasting. This is celeriac. It has kind of a celery type flavor, and it's really good in this type recipe. You want to maybe slice it into wedges that are about no more than an inch thick. So I'm going to cut my vegetables, and then we'll move to the other part. And you want to make them in interesting shapes. You don't want to just make a bunch of little cubes. For the carrot, I like to do angled wedges. It makes the meal more interesting. And when you put this together, you want a variety of colors, because each color, there's different nutrition in each type of vegetable. I like asparagus in this recipe. It's easy to get too much, so you know, you think, well, I like asparagus, I'll put 6 asparagus in there, but once you get the other stuff in there, it's going to be way too much. This is enough for 2 people. Two hungry people, or if you don't like to eat, this would probably go for 3 or 4 people that are not interested in food. With the kind of food that I fix, you know, sometimes we've had guests that they come and we'll put a big serving of food on the table. You know, we'll have it bountifully covered with all kinds of good things, and this person, they'll sit down to the table and they'll just put a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And we tell them, eat more, eat more. And we know that when they have left our home, they're hungry immediately, as soon as they're gone, because they didn't fill themselves up. And the way we eat, you can fill yourself up, eat to an abundance, and to where you're comfortable, and you don't have to worry about getting fat. I've had people even pass up an avocado. If you were to hand them a candy bar, they'd say, oh yeah, well, just this once. But if you offer them an avocado, they're like, oh no, that's too fattening. When actually the avocado will help them recover their health, lose weight, and feel better. And the candy bar will just keep us sick and miserable. I like using the inside of the stem of the broccoli, so I put that in. I think I better leave off maybe a little bit of kohlrabi, so you can see what it looks like on the inside. See this? Just white. And you want to take off the skin. The skin is tough. So you pull that off. It comes off pretty easily in one piece. And then just cut it in wedges. And that will make the dish interesting. And I have about 4 cups of vegetables here, which will be just about right for the 2 of us. The next step is to assemble the sauce. You want to make sure that it's all mixed together, because if you're measuring ingredients while everything is steaming or cooking, it's going to be a problem. So I have my mushrooms, they've been soaking, and I have 4 tablespoons, this is for 2 people, that's 4 tablespoons of raw sesame seeds, 2 tablespoons of my chicken style seasoning mix, 1/4 of a teaspoon of cumin. Now if you don't like cumin, you can leave it out. This is 1/4 of a teaspoon of ginger. Then we have 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And for today I wanted to put a little garlic in it. This is not officially in the recipe, but it's kind of nice. That's about 1/2 teaspoon of garlic. And then I want 4 tablespoons of arrowroot powder. This is arrowroot. This is the thickener. This will give it the thickness that you would normally get from cornstarch, but it has more nutrition in it than cornstarch has. Then we need a fork, and you want to make sure that all this gets stirred together before you heat it up. If you wait until you start heating it, the arrowroot powder will make lumps. So you want to mix it all while the liquid is cool. Now if you wanted to, if you don't like the seeds, you could maybe grind them. If you don't like them in your mouth or you don't like the feel of it, you could grind them or you could leave them out. They do add a lot of nutrition. They're high in calcium. And we're going to put that in the saucepan. This is where things get really tricky. Now, before you turn any fires on, you want to have everything all set up. And, I also cut up some onion. The onion's going to go in first. I have it separate from the others because I want it to have a little more cooking so that it doesn't cause gas. So that's going to go in first. So we have our sauce mix here. This is a pan with water in the bottom and a steamer basket in it. Be sure and get one with a hook on it or some way of being able to handle it while it's hot. And then a saucepan or skillet with water almost to the top. And this is what we're going to be serving the vegetables on. This is pad thai, Annie Chung's brown rice noodles. Since it's brown rice, it has more nutrition than the regular noodles would have. And these cook really fast. It only takes about 4 or 5 minutes in boiling water for these to cook. So, and all of these are going to take about the same amount of time to cook. And before we put these in, we want our fires on those two. We want to make sure the water on the noodle pan is hot before we put the noodles in. And same thing with the vegetables. I'm going to put the vegetables down low, the water on that pan low, because I'm not going to be putting those in right away. And I want to make sure that the other one is hot before I do anything. So now we just wait for those to heat up. And also this needs to be turned on a low temperature. And you need to watch that closely, stir it occasionally because the ingredients will settle to the bottom. So you want to stir it maybe once every minute or two as it warms up. You don't want the arrowroot the arrowroot flour all going to the bottom and causing it to be lumpy. So just stir that every once in a while. And it's on the smallest thing, so it's going to be cooking a little bit slower at a little bit lower temperature than the other things. And that's the story with that. According to the package, this contains 4 servings. But the way John and I love to eat, I usually use about 3/4 of the package for the 2 of us, which turns out to be really good. Sometimes we have a little bit of leftovers. So I'm going to break this apart so that they have the amount that I want. Another thing you want to make sure you have ready is a good sized bowl for putting your vegetables and the sauce in and mixing them together after they're done steaming. Now our water is hot, everything is ready to go. This is beginning to warm up. The sauce is starting to warm up, so I'm going to put the onions in there, put a bit on that, and put the noodles in their water. Make sure they're all wet, not gluing themselves to the side of the pan or hanging off the edge trying to get burnt. And we give the onions about 1 minute, and our sauce is looking good, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Now with some sauces, like if you were to use cornstarch, it would turn clear as it cooks. But the arrowroot doesn't do that quite as much, so you don't expect it to be clear to the extent that you would with the cornstarch. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit on our noodles, and I'm ready to start putting in the vegetables. Now I like to put in the firmer stuff in first, give them a little head start on the things like the peas. If you put in peas and maybe kale or something like that, some of the leafy things, you want to just give them, the leafy ones, very little time steaming, because otherwise they're going to turn bitter. I want like my carrots in there. I'm going to save the asparagus and the peas and the bell pepper for last. They'll require the least amount of heat, least amount of time too. So I'm going to turn the heat back up on those. Give that another minute. And go back to checking on the sauce. And the sauce right now is just about the right consistency. This is how I like for it to be. It's kind of firmed up and thickened up to where it's going to stick to the vegetables. And all we have to do now is wait for this to cook a little bit. Then I'll add the other vegetables. Now that those have had a chance to warm up, I'm going to add the rest of the vegetables. Another thing you want to do in preparation for this meal before you start cooking is to set the table. Because once everything is ready, it's going to it's not going to do very well for it to sit very long, because the noodles will start sticking together and become a big mass. About another minute. I think our vegetables are ready. I'm going to go ahead and pour the sauce in the pan. This way the vegetables will be immersed in it when they're ready. Oriental vegetables are traditionally done in a way that they are still crisp and have a bright color to them. And that is what we have right now. These are crisp, but they are hot and ready to eat. Now just drain the noodles. And our meal is ready. To assemble it, you take some of the noodles for the bottom part. And then spoon over it your vegetables.